welcome everybody. Hi, this is Sebastian from Cardano Foundation, and this is the kickoff to the first Cardano Summit Hackathon ever held. We have a couple of great guests today for the talk and a quick panel that we are doing in this kickoff. But before we start with this, I want to give you a quick introduction to what you have to expect with this hackathon, what the pricing is, the agenda setting, and so on and so forth. Cool. Then, first of all, big thank you and a shout out to Hacker Earth that they're hosting this event on their platform. Thank you very much. The experience on our end has been very great so far. Also, thank you very much already to EMURGO, who is participating in this hackathon as judges and also speaks on this panel. That's a great thing for us, as it's not only one of the bodies of Cardano participating in this hackathon, but it's at least two. And then let's go over the hackathon rules, and I provide you with some background. So first of all, the hackathon starts today. It will run until September 15th, when September 14th, sorry for this, when you have to hand in your final submissions. There will be a couple of seminars taking place during the time and the course of the hackathon, with the first one happening today with a soft introduction to the topic and building on Cardano. Next week, we will have a very technically focused presentation from Fabian and someone else from Cardano Foundation, presenting you how to build on Cardano in particular, and also about how to write smart contracts in Aiken, using the Aiken smart contract platform. Then we are doing the week after a general ask me anything question about anything session about building on Cardano, including an open Q&A round. And we end the live sessions the week after this with a sprint session, where we again walk you through the delivery rules and give you some examples and try to clarify together with you teams what our expectations are when it comes to the submissions from your teams. Very interesting for you is, of course, the prizes. So the winning team will receive a prize money of $10,000 plus $5,000 in travel accommodation to visit the Cardano Summit that is held beginning of November. The hackathon is centered this year around the topic, which is pretty important this year for the Cardano space, around the topic of transparency and governance, as you are all pretty familiar, of course, or for sure, with the Age of Voltaire that we just entered, with the ongoing activities and talks that IOG, EMURGO, and also Cardano Foundation is having with the community and all stakeholders in the Cardano ecosystem about how we bring the ecosystem on the next level when it comes to governance, so that everyone gets the opportunity to participate in shaping the future of Cardano. This is one topic we are exceptionally excited about, and that's also why we set the topic for this hackathon all around the topic of transparency and governance. So what we expect is ideas that are centered around transparency for governance. This means and can include any ideas when it comes to visualizing how governance on a public permissionless blockchain is actually done nowadays and might be done in the future, like dashboard systems explaining how votings are done, how the votings are counted and such. It's about voting systems. So if you have good ideas about how to implement novel voting systems that leverage the Cardano technology, that might be a good idea. It's about DREP directories, which will be a topic for the Age of Voltaire's. Any educational material or topics around the that center around providing education about decentralized governance, and likewise topics, those are very welcome contributions to this hackathon. And of course, if there are any other ideas out there, we're very open to listening to those and accepting them as well on the hackathon as submissions. We have set up a couple of judging criteria. So every submission will be judged by the same criteria by our jury, which is made up of a couple of people from Cardano Foundation, including our CEO, Frederick Rigard, Mel McCann, the VP of Engineering. I will be on the jury as well as the Director of Engineering here at Cardano Foundation. And we also have EMURGO participating as judges. So we have Takashi, who's also participating today. And we have Nikhil, the CEO of EMURGO, who will be on the jury. The judging criteria are centered around 5 points. 1 point is innovation and necessity, which means how novel is the topic that you are proposing and how much is it relevant in regards to the agenda setting, so in regards to transparency for governance. Then we have the product and tech maturity. That's the point where we are interested in your source code contributions. How mature does the source code look? How much is the product actually already fleshed out? This must not necessarily be all in source code, but also like product documentation or something like that. Then we have the usability and user experience category, where we are taking exactly a look at this. So how easy is it for end users, maybe even non-blockchain worst people, to use that solution? There's a go-to-market strategy point that's interesting for us. So if you're thinking about the solution that you are proposing and handing in, when you're doing a presentation to us, we are interested in if you already have made up your mind in terms of when it comes to a go-to-market plan or even a business strategy. And then there's a small part about the team itself. So this is how you appear in the presentation meetings, what background do you bring into it, and how do you interact during the course of the hackathon with the hackathon team. So much for the background information provided. The next part on our 2 days agenda would actually be then a panel talk with the dear panelists that joined this talk today about the topic of the current state of the developer ecosystem in Cardano. And I would like to hand over to the participants of the panel. So we have Takashi Hayashida from EMURGO, we have Kenny Wu from EMURGO, we have Fabian Bormann from Cardano Foundation, and hopefully, yes, looks good, we also have Thomas Mayfiled from Cardano Foundation, who is on the tech team, on the engineering team. So I'd like to hand over to Takashi Hayashida to introduce yourself to the audience, please.
Hi, thank you for the introduction. I'd like to introduce quickly myself. My name is Takashi Hayashida. I'm currently based in Singapore and co-heading the venture arm of EMURGO, and together with 8 people based in Singapore and also in US. And personally, I have over 10 years of experiences in the investment banking area in the on the derivatives trading businesses. After which I helped over 70 startups with my own private equity fund for over 10 years. I joined EMURGO in 2019 as a investment committee member. Since when I helped EMURGO groups to invest in early stage or late stage in Web3 project at various stages. And since last year alone, we have I have conducted screening and due diligence of close to 100 projects a month, based on which I would like to add value to the panel and judging process a meaningful way to whether the project can bring innovation to the ecosystem or to the Web3 industry overall. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for introducing yourself. Super impressive background. With this, I'd like to hand over to Kenny Wu from EMURGO. Would you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian. Kenny, I'm actually currently working very closely with my boss, Hayashida Takashi-san, on the EMURGO's venture team. So I'm basically more responsible on the all those kind of screening due diligence on the investment process side. So my previous background involved more on private equity investment and venture capital investment in Asia areas, in Beijing, in Shanghai, and right now in Singapore. So I actually joined EMURGO last summer. So right now it's actually has been staying in EMURGO for over 1 year. Very happy to join this panel, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you very much, and thanks for being on this panel. Then I'd like to hand over to Thomas Mayfiled from Cardano Foundation.
Hi there, apologies for the technical difficulty here in the beginning. And I also apologize, we've got some dogs in the background. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Thomas Mayfiled. I am the team lead for the Decentralized Trust and Identity Solutions team here at Cardano Foundation. And we focus on everything trust and identity related. So this encompasses the self-sovereign identity ecosystem, verifiable credentials, decentralized identity, in addition to various use cases that leverage the blockchain for establishing and verifying trust and becoming a verifiable registry. In addition to my work outside of CF, I'm also pursuing a PhD currently in blockchain and IoT. 1 more year left to go, so that's fantastic news. And typical computer science background for myself, in addition to some work in computer security and digital forensics. But very happy to be here, really excited to see what the students have to propose or the candidates have to propose throughout this process, and willing to support and provide any guidance as needed throughout the process. So thank you very much for the invite and the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Then I'd like to hand over to Fabian as the last but not least.
Thank you, Sebastian. So I'm Fabian Bormann. I have a background in computer science and AI. So before I joined Cardano Foundation in September last year, I worked as an AI engineer at VW. When I started at CF, I worked with Thomas and Sebastian and a team that did the Cardano ballot voting application for the summit last year. Since March this year, I'm working as a team lead for a team called Ecosystem Architecture and Engineering at CF. So we care about the developer ecosystem. For example, one of my team leads is developing the Blockspin library, so the Java ecosystem for Cardano. We also did the SIP8 verification module for Java and JavaScript, the SIP45. It's been started in our team, and we also did this connect with wallet component. Thanks to be here. So
thank you very much, Fabian. Then, as he is also on the call and he's a member of the jury for this hackathon, I'd like to hand over to our VP of Engineering, Mr. Mel McCann from Ireland.
You just introduced me, so I don't need to say anything. My name is Mel McCann. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to participate in the hackathon process as a jury member. As Sebastian said, I'm the Vice President of Engineering for the Foundation. And essentially what that means is I oversee the engineering team, the open source team, the education team, and the research team. And I'm excited to see what comes from this. Thanks, Sebastian.
Well, thank you very much, Mel. Right, so let's start with a panel. And I'd like to start with a question to Takashi. There has quite some bit of development in the course of the last 2 years, and I'd like to get your take on it when it comes to how does the Cardano ecosystem has evolved over the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, as you're already since 2019 in the ecosystem, and what can we maybe do to attract even more people to it?
Hi. The line was cut off a little bit during the first question, and I could catch the last question. So maybe I would like to start with the last question. How can we do? What can be done to attract innovative idea to within the ecosystem, if I understand correctly.
That sounds good.
But basically, I think, and in the Web3 space, and also within also true within the Cardano ecosystem, there are a lot of area that needs to be solved and sorted before the expecting mass adoption that everybody is exciting about outside the Web3 world. And there are several issues in terms of transaction speed or interoperability that need to be sorted out. And given that Cardano has been early adopting the decentralization consensus mechanism, and again this voting-based system with Voltaire, we believe that we can be a pioneer in welcoming a project that is that could solve or sort the main issues of the Web3 industry or the Cardano ecosystem. And in what in terms of what can be done to invite new project, it's basically to show as many as possible the use case of each of the feature or functionality of the Cardano in terms of from the technical perspective, how can it be utilized without necessarily need to have a complete and a finished product yet, but based on which, by showing different feature, how those technology can be adopted in different product or solutions. Other people, other newcomers may copy part of those technology to try to add another layer of innovation, which may lead to a new product. So I think it's overall it's about to exchanging idea in a public space, and about and discussing and brainstorming about different features of what Cardano can do in terms of its technical superiority versus the other ecosystem.
Thank you very much. That's super insightful and super good input to this conversation. Kenny, so when I see the Cardano developer ecosystem, I see a lot of talented teams out there that have huge technical capacities, that know how to build on Cardano, create great software products. But what I also see is that maybe due to bear market as well, there is also the need for those teams to come up with a viable business model so that the things that they have been built are out there for not just until the next Catalyst fund, but maybe for the next years, so that they are building a successful business on top of it. Do you have anything that you can provide maybe as advice to those teams? Where to start, what to look for, how to go about the business side of things?
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian. I think it's a very, very interesting questions, because I think, as we know, like Cardano has one of the largest developer communities, and all those kind of projects, a lot of them have very strong capability on the technical side. However, I think it's also being a challenge for not only for Cardano, but also for a lot of different kind of ecosystems to try to help those kind of projects to build on not only their technical side, and also to bring more innovation on the business model and the go-to-market strategies. So I think from my perspective, there are actually several areas startups who wants to build on Cardano may need to think about at the very beginning. First one, I will say it will be very great and very helpful for the founders to understand and think about what will be the key market pain points they're trying to solve. And does their solutions they're trying to build actually solving those kind of problems accurately, or they're also solving some other potential demand or market pain point at the same time? And secondly is how they can generate revenue to make their business model in the sustainable in the long terms. I think this part not only to create more value proposition to the target customers, but also to design potentially sustainable tokenomics to make sure that the projects and also their technical capabilities can create values, and also their tokenomics side can actually capture all the value created. And last, I would say basically to not only focus on themselves, but also to see what are some other market players are doing, what some other potential competitors are doing, to make sure they're actually jumping into the right marketing positioning, to make sure that they're actually facing maybe less competitions, and to have higher possibility to integrate or to combine their both technical capability and also to create a more innovative business model to succeed in the long term.
Cool, thank you very much, Kenny. Thomas, during the last 2 years, I think the topic of identity technology, so self-sovereign identity, decentralized identifiers and such, has become more and more important, and some recent developments all around the topic of financial institutions that have to have a legal entity identifier and even a virtual version of this issued by the Foundation, just shows that this topic seems to become more and more important, especially if you look also at the topic of governance and transparency for governance. Participating in a vote on something seems to require to have at least some kind of digital identity. So I know your team is dealing, of course, with all those topics. That's why I'm asking the question to you. What can Cardano or teams that are building on Cardano already use when it comes to identity tech? And also what can they expect maybe in the future? And where can we push the ecosystem to also be a viable option when it comes to identity tech?
Okay, it's a loaded question. Okay, I will do my best to be quick. Please give me a signal if I'm running too long. I think initially we should sort of capture or give a quick overview of sort of what are the most recent developments in the space, like you mentioned. So we can't really talk about decentralized identity or digital identity or tech standards without first sort of discussing the W3C, or the World Wide Web Consortium. So they have been largely responsible for setting standards across the web, and this includes decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials. And just over a year ago, they announced the DID version 1, which is the official standard for decentralized identifiers, and the first standard. Since then, we've seen increasing adoption within government use cases. This is primarily in the US, UK, and the EU. And this includes retailers, supply chain sort of stakeholders, and institutional implementations, academic, for example, or even voting. And this is both DIDs and verifiable credentials. So more recently this year, we had the verifiable credentials data model version 1.1. And sort of this was published based on feedback and with an aim to enhance mechanisms for expressing these credentials for these various use cases in a sort of cryptographically secure, privacy preserving, and machine readable way. We've also witnessed sort of increasing development within the European Union, and specifically with the EBSI, or the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure. And I apologize, I'm going to be throwing a lot of acronyms around. These considerations are mostly focused on interoperability, especially with cross-border interactions and development of cross-border applications. Again, within the European Commission, we've seen additional drive towards identity, with the EID and the various national identification systems being upgraded into a digital identity that is sort of self-sovereign as well as interoperable. But more interestingly, and to touch upon what you mentioned with regards to financial regulation and an identity, we've had growing interest in utility offered by GLIFE, the Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation. And this is regulation and application of their LEI, their Legal Entity Identifier, and this is underpinning financial stability and financial oversight and regulation. Also, GLIFE offers a verifiable legal entity identifier, or a VLEI, and this has also increased the adoption and enabled sort of automatic authentication and verification in a scalable manner. And this, although it is blockchain agnostic, it is designed in such a way that it fits extremely well within a decentralized blockchain protocol or environment. Interestingly, if we think about VLEIs for a second within GLIFE, this is all based upon the trust over IP authentic chained data container, the ACDC specification. So I wasn't lying about the amount of acronyms here. And this originates based off of the KERI protocol, which is the Key Event Receipt Infrastructure Protocol. And this enables a KERI identifier known as an AID, or an autonomic identifier. So regardless of all of these use cases, it's worth noting that all of these standards and protocols and implementations primarily focus on scalability, interoperability, security, and privacy. But with that being said, so if we talk about Cardano-centric development in the ecosystem from a developer perspective within Cardano, there are a number of projects that offer various implementations of digital and decentralized identity and verifiable credentials. And of course, the best place to gain any of this knowledge or to further develop on Cardano would be the Cardano Developer Portal. One aspect of developing identity solutions, regardless of blockchain implementations, is accessibility to and collaboration from developers and the actual users' feedback. And this includes concerns associated with vendor lock-in by way of the actual providers of the identity. And this is sort of the main factor that started this whole technology discussion about self-sovereign identity, is getting away from lock-in. So at Cardano Foundation, we recognize that sort of open source identity solutions that address these concerns that I mentioned are necessary to address sort of widespread adoption, interoperability, and to actually provide crucial real-world implementations at scale. So this is something the Decentralized Trust and Identity Solutions team at the Cardano Foundation is currently working on. So to provide an open source framework for self-sovereign identity and verifiable credentials with reference implementations for developers. And that's key there to support and empower these developers. So this also includes an identity wallet to support the wider ecosystem. So the users as well as the developers. because we're looking for feedback and we're looking for adoption on all fronts. So we're applying the same focus that I mentioned with regards to scalability, interoperability, security, and privacy, including mobility, in our efforts to ensure that the sort of existing credential systems and protocols based on blockchains or centralized systems are interoperable within our open source framework. And we're hoping to leverage the open source community and further empower them by contributing back to the project, back to the standard. And there's also sort of leveraging requests to Cardano Foundation and the open source community to further support identity solutions that aren't currently or planned at the moment to be included in the implementation. So that being said, in a nutshell, there are a number of solutions available. And if you want to get your hands on identity development, specifically within the Cardano ecosystem, there are some tools there available to you. But the ultimate goal here is to provide an open source framework and truly push towards interoperability and widespread adoption. I hope I've answered your question there.
Thank you very much for your answer, Thomas, and providing so much information about identity tech. Then Fabian, this question is actually pretty short one, but maybe you have an extensive answer to it. So what are the strengths of the Cardano developer ecosystem, and where can we potentially do better in the future?
Yeah, so first of all, the Cardano developer ecosystem, or the Cardano ecosystem, has a lot of great tools out there, and a very strong foundation with the EUTXO model, the deterministic fees, our powerful metadata, but it also has a huge kind of entry barrier. Especially if you come from other blockchains, account-based blockchains, you need a while to understand why there is this concept and what it brings as benefits to you. And also for the tools, I can tell you a short story. When I started with development in Web3 in general, I started with Morales, because it was one of the first things that I found online when I searched for blockchain development, and it's built on multiple chains. At this time, when I looked at it, it was built on Polygon, and I had a free account there to get some data from the chain. But Morales comes with this bad concept of you need to refresh the server every day, and it's for the free account. And as a Web2 developer, you're also not even aware of what this server actually is. So at some point, I found it too painful to refresh it every day. And then I Googled for alternatives, and I came across Blockfrost. And Blockfrost gives you that great API to the Cardano blockchain. But meanwhile, I'm with my projects on Koios, because Koios is a free community service and API, and you don't even need an API key. That's why I don't have a backend at all, and just have a dApp in TypeScript. And that's great, but it took a while to find out all these different things. And for example, Yassi DevKit is also a great framework that lets you spin up, it's Java-based, and it lets you spin up a local network on your PC. You don't need to request test data, because you can run it locally. You can give the funds to your account or the accounts you set up. You can test and have a dev box in real time. And it also took a while to appreciate it and the power of Yassi DevKit, because I wasn't really aware of it. What I want to say is that we need to lower the entry barrier, maybe with a lot of template repository, example repositories you can copy paste from as a developer coming from Web2, coming from other blockchains, to get in touch with this powerful ecosystem. We tried to start this with the Aiken POC, with the Hydra POC, but I think as I told you, I have the background in AI, and I always remember this PyTorch tool where when you enter the PyTorch website and you click, hey, I want to develop under Linux, I want to develop with C++, I want to develop, and you click through this widget and it gives you a binary. It would be great to have something like this. I want to start with Java or JavaScript, TypeScript, whatever, and I want to write a dApp or backend maybe, and then it gives you a few links, libraries, things like that. I would really appreciate some of those starter projects as an output or maybe a side output of this hackathon. I don't know if I answered your question at all, but yeah.
Yes, you did, Fabian. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Talking about lowering the barrier for people entering the ecosystem, this hackathon is also supported by Demeter, by TX Pipe, which is a tool that makes it super easy to get access to Cardano infrastructure. It has those startup projects which Fabian is talking about, not 100% in the way that he's talking about them, but it's already getting very close. Just check out the link on the website. That's mostly for the developer teams out there. If you don't want to set up your node by your own and just want to have access to some node out there or some other infrastructure components needed to build on Cardano, please go to their website. Last question, actually the same question for everyone now. We all are aware of that education is an important part of the strategy of Cardano Foundation for this year and hopefully also for the future years to come. And we know that also EMURGO has done a great job when it comes to providing educational resources to the ecosystem, not only Cardano, but especially Cardano. And even I have participated in one of their courses, which was a pretty great experience. So I'd like to hand over to Takashi again. When it comes to education, what are the plans on EMURGO side? What have you planned for the future? Any new hackathons coming up? Any new educational initiatives?
Hi, Kenny and I, we are on EMURGO Ventures side, which is the investment arm for EMURGO. So I can't talk much on the near-term development of on the academy, on the education front, where Nikhil, I'm sure, would bring some more information at the next session. But in regards to what can be done from the my field, we have a plan to run different hackathons in different area, including the infrastructure space, where we would like to have see more and more people building new innovative idea and a project in that space. And we have just completed one hackathon on our side, where we also realized that whenever we organize a hackathon, great people came to us voluntarily, organizing workshops, teaching every one of us, and also the new developers enter the Cardano space, building a library or building showing running a short session of how those middleware or new tools can be used to develop new things. So I think what we can do from our end is to really try to organize several events, including hackathon, where we I would like to build together with the community different opportunities to help each other to by showing what has been working in the past or what kind of tools have been developed by themselves in order to facilitate the entry barrier of new developers into that space.
Thank you very much. Mel or Thomas, can you add something from Cardano Foundation side when it comes to the plans regarding what we do in terms of fostering education in the ecosystem?
Sure. Thomas, you can jump in a second, but I would like to just start by saying that having been in the Cardano Foundation for 3.5 years now, I think I've seen a lot of startups come and go, and I'm very pleased to see, you know, the gentleman from EMURGO, but also the guys from the foundation here, because I think it really represents on the education side what is most certainly needed and what is needed when it comes to startups on Cardano. And that is both tech side, education and tech, and education and business. Because if you don't have the business side, and we've seen this, and coming into the bear market, as you mentioned, a lot of the companies that were thriving on Cardano have struggled because of either not being prepared in a business sense, not thinking long-term strategy, or many, many other reasons, maybe even keeping most of their, you know, operating capital in ADA, you know, and not maintaining a fiat reserve. So I think that I'm very pleased to be part of this and see that we have representatives from the tech side, from the business side also. On the education side, yes, the Cardano Foundation is most certainly interested in providing education to the community. We expect to provide it at a very high level. And I don't know, Thomas, if you want to jump in there, I just wanted to throw that out.
Sure thing. So in addition to that, I would say, you know, we've mentioned providing reference implementations and open source libraries and repositories to foster knowledge and have this knowledge transfer. But, you know, things like workshops and this hackathon itself is a great opportunity to further develop knowledge. But if we talk about education specifically, and Mel touched upon this, we have the Cardano Academy, which is taking on this challenge directly. Now, many of you may know that we released the alpha program earlier this year in its first iteration, and the participation and the feedback from that has been phenomenal. But this is sort of just the beginning. The Cardano Academy is currently developing content, and there'll be much more news about this in the near future and announcements to follow. But we've identified this, as Mel said, and this is definitely one of the key pillars in driving further adoption and viable use case with longevity within the Cardano ecosystem.
Thank you very much, Thomas and Mel. Maybe one last question to Kenny. Is there anything you were exceptionally amazed by the last hackathon that you did on EMURGO side? Any project that you liked the most, or any learning that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think regarding the particular projects for the hackathon, maybe Hayashida-san may be able to share more specifically. But in general, I'm actually amazed by more on the ZK knowledge part, those kind of projects built on Cardano side. I think it's really important to leverage the ZK technologies to ensure the transparency and also maintain the high level of privacy for the user at the same time. So I think this is actually one of the key focus that actually Cardano may wants to maybe target for the long terms. And it actually also have a lot of innovations on the not only the technology side on the ZKP, but also on the business model side to how to leverage and utilize those kind of technologies to make a very concrete and sustainable business plan.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the panel part. I want to once again say thank you very much for participating and being on this panel and providing your very valuable input to us and to the audience. Thank you very much. For the last part of today's session, this is actually an open question and answer round. So if there are any questions, and at the moment I only see one from Roar. I can answer this. So the question is, I'm a solution architect, inventor, not a developer. Can I still be part of the hackathon? Yes, you can. So we don't have any objections in terms of that you definitely need to deliver source code in the end. It's also fine if you come up with a solution design or a solution sketched out and provide us with the documentation around it as then the thing that you're handing in and presenting the solution to us. That's also pretty fine. It can also be a great user experience concept. On the other hand, if there are new concepts to manage digital identities and credentials, or when it comes to interacting with voting systems, or even visualizing the flow of a voting system that's blockchain based, and provide this as educational information, that might also be a great input for this hackathon. Alice, did you receive any more questions? Maybe on the Discord channel or on any other channels?
No open questions at the moment.
Cool.
There was a couple of questions that I've answered directly. For people to find out more information about the hackathon, please go to the Hacker Earth platform. There is a Discord channel which everybody can join, and we can continue the conversation there. And yep.
Cool. Then I would say this brings us already to the end of today's session. Once again, thank you very much for attending and for already having signed up, for the teams that already have signed up for the hackathon. And thank you very much again to our dear panelists for the input provided. Thank you very much and have a nice day.